Without looking online, guys, I really want to give you my honest opinion of Super R-Type. Of late, really, my life has been missing out on the shmuppy genre of video games, also known as shoot-em-ups. Super R-Type is really hard. It's one of those games where you die in one hit. You know, and I don't have a problem with one-hit death games. In fact, I find the challenge very fun, and when I beat a boss that has been giving me trouble, the payoff in the end is way more satisfying. So what do I think of Super R-Type? It's a lot of fun. You know, in no way possible, in my eyes, is this a mediocre title. If I said Super R-Type right now was mediocre, I would be beaten senseless in the streets by adoring fans. Luckily, Super R-Type is super fun. It's super fun and super challenging. So let's dive into this shmuppy classic known as Super R-Type on the Super Nintendo. Super R-Type is a shoot-'em-up game developed and published by Irem in 1991. At the time, there were already two previously released R-Type video games. R-Type, which was released in 1987, and its sequel, R-Type 2, was released in 1989. Both were arcade titles. R-Type set the standard of what a classic shooter really should be, at least in my opinion. There was also Armed Police Unit Gallop, released in 1991, the same year as Super R-Type. I haven't played these three games, so I can't comment on them currently, but given Super R-Type's likability, I'm sure they are good titles. Let me explain the title R-Type. The player flies a futuristic fighter craft called the R-9A Arrowhead, and is the 9th model in the R series of fighting craft, hence the title R-Type. Super R-Type had also borrowed 4 stages from R-Type 2 and added 3 new ones. I should point out though, I'm not exactly sure which levels were carried from R-Type 2. I definitely want to give R-Type 2 a go. And even though at time of recording this, I have only seen the first 3 levels, I can honestly say that it's pretty damn good. Trust me. Yeah! I am aware there are cheat codes like stage select and weapon power-ups, but I felt that I should play the game it was meant to be intended and take a beating like a man. And plus, I don't want to ruin the game for myself, so I opted not to use these codes. So now that I've gone over some background information, and I mean some background information, let's get into some gameplay. From the get-go, enemies make an almost immediate appearance. Essentially, it's the game that throws you into the mix and you have to learn quickly how the game works. I like that. I don't need to have my hand held and explain everything because the game itself just works. Push this button and bullets come out, hold down this button and you get to fire a blast, etc. I'm really not a fan of games that have overblown dialogue and horribly long tutorials. If you really want a game that just gets things going, then this is the game for you. And it's the game for me. Okay, like I was saying, gameplay. Your ship controls well. It's simple. Also, the enemies are well placed and not overly cheap, and I felt a great sense of satisfaction learning where the enemies were, and even more satisfaction when I watched them explode. There are 2 types of shooting on Super R-Type. The turbo shot, which is already mapped onto the controller, so you do not need a rapid fire controller. That is really cool. And then there's the charge shot. Hold down B and you can do a blast shot. Hold it down longer and you can do this shot. But when you use it, you have to know when enemies are coming because you need enough time to charge it. It does come in handy if you know what you're doing. Okay, so at first when you're playing the game, you notice that your ship is moving really slowly. That's because you need to get the speed power up. Ah yeah, much better. In Super R-Type, you can collect power-ups. According to the R-Type page, this is called the Force. It's an indestructible orb. You can attach it to the front of your ship to take an enemy fire. You can also detach the Force and launch it at enemies. And when the enemies touch it, they take damage. You can also shoot it off and attach it to the back of your ship and fire backwards. I didn't find myself really using it backwards as much as I did forwards, considering that most of the enemies come from the front. That is until the 3rd level, and it comes massively in handy. So in those tricky situations, you really need the Force to help you along in the game. And of course, along the way there are more and more power-ups, like this spread laser. And then there's this one. And missiles. That is freaking awesome looking. Like I've said before, guys, I've only gotten through to the 3rd level and I died. Over and over and over. Now, most people would think, why in the hell am I giving a game in which I can only get to the 3rd level such high praise? Because Super R-Type was very well done and well put together. So in a way, I've come back to Super R-Type repeatedly. And what I have played thus far has been really fun and really well done. Generally, I don't come back to games multiple times unless I really like them. And for this one, my mind is going,
you can beat level 3, Dustin, come on. You can do it. And I'm out this locker $50.
One thing that people would really consider a negative about Super R-Type is the slowdown. Excuse me, I mean the slow down. Here we can see the NES just cannot handle everything that is going on. But the slowdown is actually very helpful in this area, and other areas as well. If you happen to have this weapon, and there's multiple enemies on the screen who are also firing, the game slows down to a grinding halt, which is very helpful. Thank you, Super Nintendo limitations. One thing that I do consider negative about the game is that, in my opinion, the level 1 boss to me almost feels completely random in its movements. Sometimes it feels like there's a pattern, and then sometimes it's like the boss flies straight into you, which is pretty annoying, but I am stubborn, so I just keep playing and dying and dying and dying and so on to infinity. Now, the music. The game music in Super R-Type is perfect. What I mean is that it's perfect for this game in which it was composed. It has that driving feel and really adds to the gameplay in which there's a danger at every turn. It's up-tempo and very well done. The graphics. Super R-Type is done well. It's nice to look at and the enemies are well drawn. The bosses look nice as well. Even the background is cool. Good job on this, Irem. I applaud your well done efforts here, lads. Okay, this has been my opinion of Super R-Type. Some people really might dislike this game because of the difficulty alone. That's fine though, those people are called pussies. So if you like retro games with a high replayability, a high challenge, and don't really mind getting beat up a little bit, this game really is for you. But you know what, guys, don't take my word for it, just hold on a sec. Hey Austin, man, how you doing? Dustin here from Video Games House. Anyway, what do you think of Super R-Type?
Oh man, Super R-Type? That game's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. It's great. It's a great game. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, you know, I'm having a really hard time with this game. Like, what do I do?
Did you put it on easy mode?
No.
Dumbass.
I'm RetroActive.com. The difficulty of Super R-Type for me ranks right up there with Castlevania, Ninja Gaiden, Ghosts and Goblins, and even Gradius. Okay, Gradius is another shoot 'em up with an insane difficulty. Try that one. So to summarize my review of Super R-Type on the Super Nintendo, guys, I'm really driving my point in the ground here. Go buy it. Super R-Type is friggin' awesome. You know what? I think I'm gonna go try to beat that level 3 boss. Excuse me. One thing that people really would consider a negative about Super R-Type is the slowdown. I'm sorry, I mean the slow down. One thing that people would really consider a negative about Super R-Type is the slowdown. Excuse me, I mean the slow down. One thing that people might consider to be a negative in Super R-Type is the slowdown. I'm sorry, excuse me. The slowdown. Thank you, Super Nintendo Limitations. Thank you, Super Nintendo Limitations. Thank you, Super Nintendo Limitations.